right. Good morning. Good morning. It is morning, June 5th. This is our Coffee with Cripplewood Facebook Live / now it's a podcast. So hopefully individuals don't get tired of hearing the sound of my voice. I know sometimes I get tired of hearing it myself, but it is what it is. And good morning to everyone. For those of you on Facebook Live, I appreciate you getting up this morning and sharing the morning with us. We did not meet last Monday. Last Monday was Memorial Day. And it's a day where we honor those that have fallen. National Remembrance Day is what it's officially called, and we remember the lost their lives in service to our country and never made it home. Well, a lot of people and a lot of things on Facebook said thank you, veterans, for your service on Memorial Day. Technically, you can thank myself as a veteran and other veterans on Veterans Day in November. Memorial Day is not about the veterans who made it home. It's about the service members that did not make it home. And I just want to give a quick shout out, a big thank you to Mount Prospect. If you did not see me in the Aurora area, that is why. Mount Prospect honored me as their Grand Marshal for their parade and their program. And they were honoring women served and the contributions that women service members made and had lost their lives on Memorial Day in service to our country as well. So it was, I have to say, it was a wonderful program in Mount Prospect. I was honored to be selected. They had the parade, and at the end of the parade, they had a very dignified and honorable program at their bandstand that really, I think, embodies what Memorial Day is about. And it's not about the barbecues, it's not about the parties. It's about remembering those that will never make it back, the families that have lost their sons, their daughters, or they've lost their mom and dad, or they've lost their brother, their sister, and they're in session until Saturday, Saturday before Memorial Day. And I was able to get home in time, actually Saturday morning at 3 a.m. I was able to get home in time to make it to the Gold Star family monument in Naperville. It's a wonderful monument. It really does dignify and honor our Gold Star families for the sacrifice that they've done so much that the grieving, it's just completely incomprehensible what our Gold Star families go through. And Memorial Day was about our Gold Star families. It wasn't about parties again and barbecues and the unofficial. So again, I want to thank you to Mount Prospect for the opportunity and the honor to be part of their Memorial Day event and to be the Grand Marshal of their parade and very dignified service that they did. So thank you very much. Dutch, thank you for inviting me. So thank you for who's up. Bob Dunn, you're on the Facebook first thing in the morning. Thanks for joining us. Others will be coming on board, I'm sure, as the feed continues. So what happened? First and foremost, I do have to say we passed the budget. We did pass the budget on Saturday morning at 3 a.m. Now, the question is why 3 a.m. Why would we do something to ourselves? Well, what happens is this year was very unique. It was a unique year in that most of the time, there's a procedural loophole, I call it, with amending bills. And this happens, and it needs to happen. It's a process that sometimes needs to happen. I had to use it. There was a error in one of the bills I passed to the Senate. We had to redo the bill. And so we looked at a bill that was not viable and put an amendment on it and sent that back to the Senate as a correction. So it is a viable process. In the past, they used to send bills over to the other chamber, and then they would find a bill that wasn't viable or a shell bill and amend that bill and send it back. or the Senate, the other originating chamber. Now, what that means is that that originating chamber only needs to consider that amendment for an hour. That's the posting requirement for the amendments. And so there was always some criticism about the budget going through, even though it was vetted in committee, and we've been talking about it, and the governor introduced his budget back in February, so we have an idea of where the budget's gonna go. There's a lot of time in between the governor's introduced budget and the budget that gets passed. There was always some criticism about that process. So this process, this year was a different process. The Senate originated the budget on a Senate bill, was not an amendment, it was a Senate budget bill. And they debated it, and then they passed it. This was why we had to go back last week to pass the budget, but that wasn't really scheduled. So they debated it, they passed it. Now the House has to wait, based on our Constitution, 3 days. 3 days for it to be read into the record. So it was read, we received the bill, I believe on Wednesday. It was read into the record on Thursday, it was read in the record on Friday, and then it was read in the record on Saturday. It was read into the record on Saturday, just past midnight. So the bill was out there Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the Senate budget bill that passed it. And so that was a good opportunity for individuals to be able to look at the bill, see what was in the bill, and be familiar with the budget bill. That's why we got done roughly about 3 a.m. on Saturday morning. And then again, I was up and out the door and at our Gold Star Family Monuments unveiling on Saturday afternoon. It was a great job by Newsville. Thank you so much for doing that. The state of Illinois passed another balanced budget. I realize there are people that want to say, oh, you know, the budget's not balanced, and critique it. The proof is in the pudding. We had 8 credit upgrades. We would not have gotten 8 credit upgrades if our budgets have been out of balance. That's just not the way the system works. Just giving you a little bit of a tutorial on that. So we are committed to continuing to budgets and to get Illinois in the right direction. Now, this is our FY24 budget, and for those of you that know I've gone over the budget before in the past, I've given you the highlights, I've let you know generally what's in it. We only have an hour. I can talk about this budget for hours and hours and hours. It is our fiscal year 24 budget. And again, this is appropriations for both the operating budget and the capital budget. So just so that you know, and I've said this before in the past, but it never hurts to be repeating, is appropriations means the authority to spend. It does not mean the governor needs to spend all the way up to the appropriations. But so we appropriate estimates, they adjusted a little bit. We're still slightly above the revenue estimates, or slightly, the revenue estimates are slightly above the expenditures. And however, if there is an economic downturn, if things need to be adjusted, the governor can adjust and spend less. So there is that flexibility in the budget. The governor can only spend up to, not exceeding the line items that are in this budget. You can always spend less. That's the essence of the appropriations. So the General Assembly spends no money. We don't spend any of it. That is under the checks and balance system. That is, we give the authority to spend in the legislative area, and then the executive branch, the governor and the department heads, have that authority to spend line item, and they name department budgets as they need to see fit. So our FY24 budget is balanced, and it looks at a total general revenue fund appropriations. Again, appropriations is the authority to spend. Appropriations of $50.5 billion. That's against the revenue number that we have estimated at $50.7 billion. Now, keep in mind that this is a general revenue fund. This is the fund where all the operating money comes from. We also have other funds, federal funds, pass-through funds that we do manage on behalf of various different entities, various different programs. So when you're looking at the state of Illinois budget as a whole, that our operating GRF, General Revenue Fund, that's our operating account. Then we have pass-through funds, so we call it all funds. So if there's an all fund budget, the all fund budget of the state of Illinois is $126.6 billion. Now, our operating budget, again, the money that we use to fund pretty much a lot of things in the state of Illinois, higher education, K through 12 education, Medicaid programs, colleges, domestic violence shelters. Our operating account is 50.5 billion. That's our general revenue fund expense. 0.5 billion, and then the rest that are going to go in, that's the revenues, the income tax, other fees, gambling, those revenues go into our general revenue fund. Our operating account is roughly 50.7 billion. So we're spending a little less than our revenue. So definitely that's our number. And then we also need to look at overall where the spending is going to be to make sure that things are going in the right direction. So what we're looking at as well is we had to do an FY23 supplemental. What does that mean? That means that monies didn't get spent in FY23. They're still in the fund balance. They're still sitting there, and we just need to reappropriate, reauthorize that spending. So, if things don't get spent the way they should, and the money's still there, we need to still continue the program, some of these business grant programs, and that we have to reauthorize the spending of those funds. That's another check and balance on the executive branch, just so that you know. So supplementally, what did we do? We were able to we had some excess from the FY23 budget, so we were able to put 200 million more in additional pension funds payments. 22 million went to the Port of Plains, 235 million went to healthcare provider relief. We added another 2 million for MAP grants for the students, MAP monetary reward program, and then 6.5 million to the Illinois State for maintenance of equity payment account. So those are just a little bit of what's in that supplemental. Now, again, I'm just going to go above the really quick overview of the budget, because I know you're listening to this and on Facebook Live. Good morning to Bonnie and Gabe. They just came in. Glad to see you guys on Facebook. Or if you're listening to this podcast, I don't want to put you to sleep, because the budget is a lot of numbers, a lot of finite details that can get repetitive. And definitely, if you're listening to this, I don't want you to get bored and shut it off. But we are providing funding. What we are looking at is the evidence-based funding formula, which is a K through 12 budget. That $27 billion here. We increase funding by $350 million. So every year we're increasing and increasing and increasing. And we did that increase again this year of $350 million. Now there's some federal money we had to give away as well that we had to distribute to the schools. The elementary and secondary school funding relief program during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we definitely distributed those funds to the schools as well. Early childhood funding, 673 million, and then career and technical education, because not everybody goes to college. Understand that. My son went in the Navy, did not go to college. Career and technical training, we definitely funded at $40. Now, one of the things that I thought were very interesting is the Dolly Parton Imagination Library at 1.6 million. And so this is through the library program. So it's not necessarily, this is a distribution from one of these funds that are passed through the library program. And it offers a book to every child age 0 to 5 after the parents sign up for the program. So this is a matching grant. This is the matching grant from Dolly Parton's charity. And definitely it's going to be an interesting program to bring to our kids. So the Illinois Board of Education, they came in at and this is just the Illinois Board of Education, came in at about $178 million. The Board of Education oversees our higher education, and they provide our service systems. And then, of course, we do give funding for universities, and we do give funding for our colleges, community colleges, and inside the Illinois State Math and Science Academy. So we did give an increase to the Illinois Math and Science Academy of about 22% increase. So they are going to get $30.4 million. As you know, the Illinois Math and Science Academy takes students from all over Illinois, and they open it up to allow students to come in from other states in the United States, but definitely are focused on Illinois, obviously is applied, but it is free to Illinois students. We have our public safety budget, which definitely funds things such as appellate defenders, appellate prosecutors, capital development board, Department of Corrections, the courts, criminal justice information authority, and many of those. So we funded those as well. Department of Military Affairs, State Police Merit Board, those all fall under public safety. Human services, what we did is we increased some funding for Medicaid programs, increased rates for providers. You might have seen the Department of Children and Family Services are in their public health. And definitely a lot of other programs, the Department of Aging, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Department of Human Rights, and the Department of Human Services also has a fighting homelessness program. Medicaid, one of the Medicaid is one of the biggest, I have to say, the biggest expenditure for the state of Illinois. We have, roughly 9 billion or so for Medicaid expenditures, and rural areas, we have 1.3 additional funding to support services in rural areas. Home delivered meals got funded. Grandparents Raising Grandchildren program is a $1 million increase. This is what happens if something happens to the natural parents. The grandparents have to then raise the children. DCFS, the Department of Children and Family Services, they are appropriated, they got an increase of about 12% at $2.029 billion with the Department of Family Services, and the list goes on and on. The Department of Human Services is very, very important. It helps so many people, and definitely really looking it out. And then we have the Department of Healthcare and Family Services, which is HFS, and they are roughly about 38, about $38 billion, or not $38 billion, so just a lot of funding. Oh, that's overall, we get a lot of money from the federal government for the healthcare and family services. So they provide assistance to over 3.2 million Illinoisans and child support services. They have approximately 500,000 cases. So it's really important. But I read that correct. The FY24 budget for medical assistance programs totals about 38.3 billion. A lot of that is federal money. Said at the beginning, we get money from the federal government that matches, that comes in, but it doesn't hit our operating account. So $9.3 billion out of our operating account is what the state of Illinois puts into our healthcare and family services. So overall, though, the state spends $38.3 billion helping individuals as well. So really, the budget is a huge document. Public health comes in at about $2 billion. Definitely that was ramped up during COVID. We're starting to bring it back down as well. And then we have the this is the committee on that wasn't on this year, General Services, Legislative Constitutionals. They make up a significantly smaller amount of the state of Illinois budget, roughly about $4 million. So we were just talking about billions to run the state of Illinois, which we're looking at the judicial, the Supreme Courts, the Secretary of State, the Constitutional Officer, the legislature. It's relatively relatively small when we're looking at overall. So the General Assembly, is appropriated, excuse me. The General Assembly increased $4 million, so it's appropriate about $98 million. My apologies. And then we're looking at like the is $183 million, with Auditor General, 41 million. Comptroller runs her budget at 5.5 million. 376.6 million, which includes 5.5 million increase. The governor runs his office, with a total budget of about 16.6 million. The lieutenant governor runs her office, 2.8 million. Secretary of State, the largest office in the state, they have the largest amount of employees. Their budget is 390.3 million. So definitely they're fairly large. The treasurer's the total budget of 3.5 billion, and the Supreme Court administrative offices, to make sure Supreme Court is running, receives about 595 million dollars. We have various agencies and commissions that we also ran as well, and then our capital. So in FY20. We passed the Rebuild Illinois package, a comprehensive capital funding plan, so all of you individuals out there that are in construction, driving by the phones and seeing the workers out there, which please pay attention, slow down for our construction workers, the guys that are the Rebuild Illinois plan. So it does necessary infrastructure improvements. Now, we passed this huge plan. As you know, you can't do all the improvements at once. Got to do it a little bit at a time. So the capital budget includes $5 billion for new capital appropriations for the Illinois Department of Transportation. And then we also have we include 3.3 billion for the annual road program. The EPA got about 450 million for wastewater loan programs, and some other programs got funded as well. And then the FY24 capital includes 41.5 billion in capital reappropriations. Didn't quite finish on time, but we need to read again. We have to reappropriate every single year these projects, and so a lot of them totals in the billions. So 41.5 billion got reappropriated. So we are looking at those expenditures as well. So that's about a 15-minute overview of a budget that took days to pass and many hours in committee, looking at all the numbers and where we're at. So there's your budget recap about. And then I will go over a little bit more. I know I went over some specific budgets, but just to give you an care, I went into specifics, but $38.2 billion, like I said, at HFS. And what is all in healthcare, again, which we talked about: substance use disorder, hospitals, nursing services for the medically fragile, dependent children, air and ground ambulance, adult daycare services, medically complex and developmentally disabled individuals, dementia care, the community care program, and direct service providers that help those with developmental disabilities. They got a rate increase as well. K through 12, we talked about that. Low income programs, there's 200 million for homelessness, prevention of that, homeless veterans. There's a part of $20 million for grocery and to expand access to areas where there are food deserts, mostly in Middletown, some areas in around Chicago. $400 million for economic development. Now, local distributed fund, I've talked about this in the past, but just so that you know, back in the day when the state of Illinois first enacted the income tax, there was an agreement that there would be no local income tax in Illinois. If you go to Indiana, there's a local county income tax. There's all local income taxes on various levels. There's a school income tax in another state I heard about. But the agreement was that the state of Illinois would have one income tax. And then that with the local governments, and then when the income tax went up, that tax proportionately went down, that percentage. So there was an increase of local governments. Now the local governments are gonna get a little bit more of the local distributive fund, which they are very happy about. So the local distributive fund now will get 6.47% of all the income taxes that come in. Will go to your local government. And then what we are looking at overall is the Chicago Electric School Board. Those districts are still being drawn, and they are working on that. There was not a consensus reached by the end of the session, but they are still continuing to work on that for the 24 Chicago School Board elections. So that's kind of a nutshell, things that we were working on with regards to the budget. Now, I'm going to pause a bit and send my condolences to the Meisch family. Todd Meisch was the CEO of the Illinois Chamber of Commerce. He unexpectedly, or the news is unexpected, but he passed away. He was 57 years old. So I did dig out a business mug. I have some business mugs in honor of Todd Meisch, and this is a blast from the past when I used to work for First Chicago. So this is my first National Bank of Chicago mug that I had gotten first job out. Chicago no longer exists today. It now is, I go Chase Bank. But Todd was a leader, an advocate for the business community, leading the Illinois Chamber of Commerce. He was a wonderful person, and got to know him quite well. And it's really sad and heartening. So I want to send out my condolences to the Meisch family, his wife Kim, and everybody who knew him, who appreciated him, and loved him, and we just pray for peace and for the family during these times. So definitely, it's always shocking when we lose somebody. It's extremely shocking when we lose somebody that was only 57 and such person, a wonderful person. I want to send out my condolences to the Meisch family with regards to that. Very, very sad. So what's the roundup? Veto session. We got the schedule for veto session. Veto will be held October 24th through October 26th and November 7th with amendment. This is a situation where the governor vetoes the bill. Then we go down to Springfield and consider the vetoes. The governor, we can override the veto or sustain the veto. Those are mostly the two actions that need to be taken. So we passed more than 560 bills. They are going to be sent to the governor over the next few weeks. We have 30 days after passage to present the bill to the governor, and the governor has 60 days after receiving the bill to sign it, veto it, or a mandatorily line item veto it as well. If he does nothing after 60 days, the bill becomes law by default. So this week, the governor just took action on a couple of bills. Senate Bill 89 extends the sunset date on various provisions, including uses of design build, cocktails to go, and certain court fees. And House Bill 2000 allows specific quick take proceedings in Menard and McLennan County. So those are the two that he passed. We passed a bill with regards to property tax and we increased seniors an increase in the senior exemption, and then we also corrected amongst the bill had many different facets of the property tax bill, and we can go over that in our next Facebook Live. But one of the things is a couple counties were sending letters to disabled veterans who have, for the last 5 years or so, have qualified for their property tax exemption under their disability rating. So disabled veterans, and I realize that some people come to me and say, well, those people look fine. They look fine on the outside. They can be in a lot of pain on the inside. I know veterans that are in chronic pain all the time from their joints and from their while on service. So I caution people not to be so judgmental about anybody with a disability, to be quite honest, disabled veterans as well. So there were a couple county assessors that sent letters to disabled veterans who had been qualified for their disabled veteran tax exemption and pretty much nullified their tax exemption. Because, to be quite frank, these individuals never served in the military and were reading the DB 214 in a literal sense of the civilian world, not in what things mean in the veteran community, in the military world. The Department of Veterans Affairs has a distinction for honorable discharge. Two honor categories fall under this distinction, which means that you qualify for benefits and you qualify as honorably served in the military, and that is honorable discharge or general under honorable conditions. Now, this is just a technicality, depending on which one of those is assigned. Sometimes you would get a general under honorable conditions if you didn't complete 1 year of service and you were get a disability and had to get discharged. So these non-military assessors were reading general under honorable conditions as a non-honorable discharge, which is completely false. And they claim that they got an interpretation from the state's attorney, which is again a non-military person is not reading it correctly under the FCA. So we had to change the law so that these tax assessors sent out letters to hundreds of disabled veterans, causing a huge panic in their counties. Very disingenuous and disrespectful to veterans, to be quite honest, I would say that veterans, telling them that they were now going to be disqualified from the property tax benefits that they earned in service to their country. So we had to change the law to specify that to follow the VA definition that if they are awarded a service-connected disability compensation claim, that means that the VA considers them honorably discharged and that they deserve their benefits. So that's one of the components property tax bill that was presented in committee and presented on the House floor with regards to taking care of our veterans. And this is where it gets very frustrating when individuals that do not know anything about the military, anything about discharges, anything, benefits, take it upon themselves to unilaterally make a decision that's contrary to what was the spirit of the law, the intent of the law, and actually the United States Department of Veterans Affairs. So that was one of my bills, and so we passed that on. A couple of people have joined us again. Good morning, Roger. Just saw Roger the other day. Good morning, Brooke. Hope everybody is having a great morning. So a couple of things again on the judicial spectrum. At the end of the May term, the Supreme Court granted leave to appeal on 5 cases and denied 121 cases. That's roughly a 4% acceptance rate. So the 5 cases include 4 criminal cases and a case concerning pension consolidation. The court's next term, so the Supreme Court's next term, begins the second Monday in September. So the court is looking, the Illinois Supreme Court will hear arguments on the case challenging the consolidation of the state's municipal police and fire pension funds. The appellate court affirmed a May 2022 decision by the King County Circuit Court Judge that consolidated funds was constitutional, and it was appealed, and the Supreme Court will be looking into that case as well. The Supreme Court also announced amendments to Supreme Court rules. Now, the Supreme Court passes their own rules that look into how they function, which makes a lot of sense. So the Supreme Court announced amendments to Supreme Court rules related to the application and filing process of waivers of court fees and assessments. So these changes establish uniform and consistent procedures across the courts. And then a lawsuit was filed challenging the decision by the Chicago Housing Authority over land leased to the Chicago Fire Soccer Club. So that's in the courts as well. And then an employee of DCFS, Department of Child and Family Services, was indicted, allegedly using funds meant for child care for personal use, including casinos. Gambling on casinos between 2016 and 2022, more than $1.6 million in payments from 14 child care providers doing business with DCFS was deposited in a personal account. So that's what has been going on with regards to that. Now, in the executive level, that was the judicial branch, the executive level, we have a new Secretary of the Department of Innovation and Technology, Sanjay Gupta, not the ones that you hear on the radio, but a local individual. He's a national tech leader with public sector experience, including running the federal government's pandemic aid portals for small businesses and serving as a board member of the Federal Technology Modernization Fund. So we look forward to working with him. Look out, Comptroller Mendoza released her new fiscal focus, so we'll find that online. And then Treasurer Frerichs recently had a decision to move from Central Illinois to Chicago. We are very excited. Treasurer Frerichs is expecting twins, and he and his wife are relocating to Chicago. And he does have an offer there, and he is pointing out that, you know, it's the best for his family. So I wish him well on his upcoming little ones that are going to be joining us in a few months. So congratulations to Treasurer Frerichs for his upcoming newborn twins that are coming up. I believe in a couple months they're set to come. So also, the Attorney General has been very busy. The Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, released a report on sex abuse by Catholic clergy. A nearly 700-page report detailing decades of child sex abuse by members of the Catholic Church clergy in Illinois. This was actually started under former Attorney General. Current Attorney General Kwame has finished the report and has presented it. In Decatur, the Illinois State Police opened a forensic lab to again reduce delays and make sure that evidence is processed in a timely and efficient manner. The Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity launched a $15 million federal grant. Of course, this is now federal money, federal grant to support programs to assist Illinois-based business and organizations. And then the Department of Agriculture encourages farmers and chemical facilities to take part in free agrochemical container recycling programs. And I realized that the drought rain is really eating on our farmers. And then and as I said before, Illinois is an agricultural state. So other items, here's a fun tidbit for you to tell your friends and your neighbors. Illinois is ranked the second happiest state. So you can put that on your social media if you want. A Scholar Room study analyzed 7 key categories, including personal finance, leisure activities, mental health, physical health, employment, personal relationships, and social policies. And the study found that Illinois is the second happiest state in the United States. Missouri at the bottom 10 of the list, coming in at 42. Massachusetts was named the happiest state in America. So that's something you can bring to the barbecue and to talk to your friends about when you're trying to make small talk or other conversations. Other than that, Chicago leads diverse ranks at big companies. So mostly minority representation at Chicago's 50th largest public companies has increased over the past 10 years. So in 2022, Black people made up nearly 8% of the C-suite positions at Chicago's top businesses, compared with 3%. Asian Americans made up roughly 3% in Chicago compared with 7% in the US, and the city has seen an 11.4% increase across all executive positions since 2012, according to Chicago United. So minority groups now make up 21% of the executive positions at Chicago's top public companies. So, also very good news as well with regards to that. So, some good things with the state of Illinois. I know everybody, not everybody, but there's a chunk of people that like to be negative, like to talk down on Illinois. There's some really positive things, positive on with the state of Illinois that we really, really appreciate. And another positive thing for the state of Illinois, again, you can take this to the chit chat that you guys do. Choose Chicago announced that visitation to the city during 2022 was up 60% from 2021. Obviously, the pandemic had an issue in 2021, but in 2022, nearly 49 million visitors returned following the pandemic. Business travel has been a little slower to come back than the leisure set, as virtual meetings still have replaced a segment of the travel that was used to fill many businesses that use the hotels in downtown Chicago. But we are seeing visitors go to Chicago. So again, things are looking up and the weather is improving. And people are enjoying, hopefully they enjoyed the weekend and the beaches and all the fun things to do now that the kids are out of school. So hopefully you have some good travel coming up along the way. But again, I'm just going to, that's our update. I don't have much else. But again, we're just going to send again our condolences and our prayers and our thoughts to the family of Todd Meisch. Again, he obviously was a husband, a father, leader in the Chamber of Commerce. He actually had capital in some different capacity for nearly 30 years and really, really was a wonderful person. So please, everybody, keep him, his family in your thoughts and prayers. And if there are any individuals that are experiencing extreme heat or air conditioners not working or need assistance, please, they can call my office. They can stop by my office. Our air conditioning is working. There are cooling centers for those that need the help. And we definitely want to be of assistance. If you have questions, if you have concerns, Ellen just joined us. Coming in a little late, but that's okay, Ellen, because this is on Facebook and this is on podcast, so you can catch all the highlights of the budget that I went over, and definitely keep up to date. So if you need email updates, we have some events coming up. Our annual Shred Day is coming up, and then in the fall we do our Kid Expo. Sign up for emails at ildistrict84.com. Get on our email list. We will keep you informed every week. We give you updates every week as well with regards to an email update. So you get this update on Monday. You should get email updates on Friday. Last Friday I was in session. We weren't done yet, but we are sending out a recap email by the end of this week to keep you totally informed of everything that you need to know going in and around Springfield and in the district particular. So with that, this past weekend, I participated in the first ever Women Veterans Conference located at the Hyatt Lodge in Oak Brook. It was a wonderful event. And definitely there's so much that we need to continue to do to outreach to not only the veteran community as a whole, but also the women veterans that have served as well. And then finally, I would like to thank the Illinois VFW. I've been requested to go to their convention, and they have expressed that they are going to present me with an award, Legislator of the Year. So thank you to the VFW convention for that distinct honor. So this Friday, I will be venturing into Springfield to the Illinois VFW, and I just want to take this time to say that we definitely need to focus on membership. I'm the member of the American Legion and the member of AMVETS, the Women Marine Association, DuPage County Marines, the Fox Valley Marines. Those organizations work extremely hard for the veterans in our community. And if you are not a member of one of these congressionally chartered or one of these other recognized organizations, please sign up and be active. They need the help and they need the members, and the American Legion does so much for our veterans in the Aurora area. I'm the member of Aurora Post 80, is one of the oldest posts in the nation, founded in 1919. So definitely get involved. If you are not a member, if you did not serve, but you're a child of a member or a sibling, you have want to be supportive, certainly there are auxiliary memberships available as well. So I just want to put in that little plug there for the congressional charters. I know it does get stereotypes with regards. We do have a couple, Dick Miller, our World War II veteran, still around, still hanging out, still coming to meetings. Younger generations, all generations are getting involved. So definitely, I work very closely. We work very closely with American Legion, and just need to support these organizations that have brought veterans so many benefits, that have advocated for veterans, from the GI Bill to just recently the PAC Act. Those pieces of legislation would not pass if it wasn't for the advocacy of the American Legions, of the VFWs and vets, and those organizations that are advocating on behalf of veterans every single day. So look in your community, sign up, be active, and help them out. So definitely, that's a great thing. So with that, I will let you go. Enjoy your Monday, June 5th. And I hope everybody is well. I hope their summer kicks off to a great time. And I will be back again, giving you a little brief, maybe going around in Springfield. So take care, everybody. Be well. If you are, COVID is still out there. So if you're not feeling well, please feel free to wear a mask, social distance, all that. But have fun, enjoy, and I will be back online on Facebook. And then again, this is being turned into a podcast, so you can listen to me at your leisure anytime you want. So take care, everybody. Have a great day, and be well.